She did what? I asked, staring at the dripping brown stain on my wife's dress. The cafe went silent. Every eye on the woman who just threw her coffee like it was some kind of royal command. "That's my seat," Karen snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You can't just sit by the window like you own the place." My wife blinked, still trying to process what just happened. She wasn't the kind to fight, calm, polite, the kind of woman who'd rather move than argue. But this time I saw her jaw tighten. "I didn't see any name on it," she said softly. Karen smirked, flipping her fake designer bag on the table. "You people never do. You just walk in and take what doesn't belong to you." The word "you people" hit hard, and the whole cafe felt it. A few customers looked away, uncomfortable. Others took out their phones, because they knew drama was about to unfold. I stood up slowly, keeping my voice even. "You just threw hot coffee on my wife over a seat." Karen didn't flinch. "You heard me. This is my spot. Every morning. Everyone knows that. Now, take your little family and move." I looked down at the spreading stain on the floor, the smell of burnt espresso in the air, and then at my wife, her calm eyes telling me not to make a scene. But the thing about people like Karen, they think silence means weakness. She turned to the barista and shouted, "Call the manager. This man's wife is harassing me." Everyone froze. The barista hesitated, glancing at me. I smiled, not the kind of smile you give when you're calm. The kind that says you know something the other person doesn't. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy talking, waving her phone around, pretending to dial 911. She had no idea who she was messing with, because the man standing in front of her wasn't just another husband defending his wife. He was the guy whose signature decides who flies and who doesn't. And this little cafe, it sat inside one of my airports. Karen stood there like she was the queen of the place, tapping her phone screen hard enough to break it. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "My brother works with the city board. You'll be banned from this whole area before the day ends." People whispered now, cameras rolling. My wife tried to wipe her sleeve, her hand trembling a little, but she kept her voice steady. "We could just leave, honey." I looked at her and smiled faintly. "No," I said. "Let's finish our coffee." Karen laughed out loud. "You think you can just sit here after what you did? You're lucky I don't press charges." She turned to the manager, walking up nervously. "You, get them out of my cafe right now." The poor guy looked terrified. He glanced at me, then at her, clearly unsure who to listen to. "Ma'am, maybe we can talk this out." Karen cut him off. "Talk. I own this place." That was the moment I finally turned my head. Calmly, slowly. "You own it?" I asked. "Yes," she said, lifting her chin. "My friend's husband's cousin is on the property committee. So yeah, I basically run this place." A soft laugh slipped out before I could stop it. "That's cute." She frowned. "Excuse me. You think you own a seat," I said, leaning forward a little. "And now you think you own the cafe too?" Karen crossed her arms. "Keep talking, smart guy. You'll be lucky to find another airport in this city that lets you inside." That line made me pause, just for a second, because fate really does have a sense of humor. I pulled out my phone, scrolled for a moment, then placed it on the table screen up. Her reflection stared back at her, and right beneath it, the name glowing bright on my business card app, Ethan Cole, CEO, Skyhold Aviation Group. Karen blinked. What is that supposed to mean?" I kept my voice level. "It means that while you're threatening to get me banned from airports, you're standing inside one of mine." The whole cafe went dead silent. Even the espresso machine stopped hissing. Karen's mouth opened, then closed again. She looked around, suddenly unsure, then back at me. "You're lying," she said weakly. "Am I?" I replied, and then I nodded toward the security guard by the door who'd been watching the whole time. "Go ahead. Ask him who signs his paycheck." Karen turned, her face draining of color as the guard gave a small nod, directly to me. And just like that, the so-called queen of the cafe started to crumble. Karen's face twitched, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. She forced out a shaky laugh, the kind that tries to cover fear. "Oh, please," she said, rolling her eyes. You're just pretending. Everyone says that online. CEO this, investor that. You think anyone believes you? The cafe had gone still again. Even the people recording looked tense, waiting to see who would break first. I leaned back, calm as ever. You can believe whatever you want, I said quietly. But I suggest you step back before you embarrass yourself any further. Karen's hand trembled a little as she pointed at me. Embarrass myself? You humiliated me. You took my seat, insulted me, and now you're threatening me in my own community. My wife sighed softly. You threw coffee on me. Karen's face flushed. That was an accident, she snapped. And if you hadn't stolen my spot, it wouldn't have happened. Then she turned to the crowd, waving her phone again. Everyone saw it. He's harassing me. I'll make sure the news knows about this. That's when she made her mistake. She pushed past the manager, stormed behind the counter, and tried to pull the security camera cable out of the wall. A gasp ran through the cafe. Ma'am, don't touch that, the manager warned, stepping forward. But Karen yanked harder, shouting, You think I don't know how this works? You'll delete the footage to protect him. The cable snapped. The camera tilted. People started backing away. I stayed seated, watching her unravel. I could feel every eye turning toward me now, not out of fear, but curiosity. Who was this man who didn't even raise his voice while chaos unfolded? Karen stormed toward me again, her fingers shaking. You think you could just sit there like some king? You're nothing. I'll have your license revoked. I'll call the federal. Careful, I said, interrupting her quietly. She froze mid-sentence. Something in my tone made her step back. I took my phone, tapped once, and set it on the table again. The screen lit up with a live camera feed, multiple terminals, runways, airport security offices, all with the Skyhold Aviation logo on the corner. The audience gasped again. Karen blinked, her voice catching. What is that? I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. That, I said, is what I actually own. 62 airports, to be exact. And this little coffee shop? It's inside Gate 14 of one of them. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was heavy. Like everyone was realizing how far she'd just gone. And yet, she still wasn't done. Because instead of apologizing, Karen clenched her fists, looked around the cafe, and shouted, Then I'll sue you. You can't threaten me with your money. That's when my wife finally spoke, her voice calm, almost too calm. You should stop, she said softly, before you lose more than just your seat. But Karen didn't listen. She picked up a cup from the counter, and this time, she didn't just throw coffee. She threw the whole thing. The cup flew across the cafe, spinning midair, coffee splashing like dark rain. My wife ducked just in time, the cup smashing against the wall behind her. The sound echoed through the room, sharp and final. Everyone gasped. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted. She threw it again. Phones lifted higher, recording every second now. Karen froze, her face pale, realizing she'd just gone too far. The manager's voice cracked through the noise. That's it. I'm calling security, right now. But I was already ahead of him. Without a word, I took out my phone again and pressed one single button on the screen. A low beep came from the ceiling speakers, followed by a calm announcement. Attention all passengers. Temporary lockdown in Gate 14 cafe area. Please remain where you are. Karen blinked. What's happening? I didn't answer. The glass doors slid shut automatically with a click. 2 uniformed airport security officers appeared within seconds, their steps heavy and deliberate. They weren't the usual rent-a-cops Karen was used to shouting at. These men wore Skyhold Aviation patches, my company's private enforcement division. One officer stopped beside me. Mr. Cole, he said quietly. Are you all right? I nodded, eyes still on Karen. She threw a cup at my wife. Make sure the footage is backed up. Karen's face twisted. You can't do this. You can't lock me in here. The officer's tone was calm. Ma'am, please sit down. I'm not sitting anywhere, she screamed. You don't tell me what to do. I know my rights. I tilted my head. Good, I said softly. Then you know assault and destruction of property in a federal aviation zone is a felony. Her mouth dropped open. W what? My wife stood beside me now, quiet but firm. You should probably stop talking, she said. Karen looked around, realizing the same people who had once looked annoyed were now filming her every word, every move, every ounce of arrogance. Delete those videos, she yelled at them, waving her hands wildly. You don't have permission. No one listened. One of the officers whispered something into his radio. Another step closer. Ma'am, please come with us. Karen backed away, bumping into a table. You can't arrest me. You don't have the authority. I finally spoke again, my voice calm, but sharp enough to cut through her panic. They don't need to arrest you, I said. They're detaining you until federal officers arrive, because you just assaulted someone inside a controlled aviation facility. The words hit her like a punch. The color drained from her face completely. And for the first time since this started, she stopped talking. The cafe stayed silent, except for the soft hum of the closing announcement repeating overhead. Then she whispered, barely audible, You set me up. I looked at her for a long second. No, I said. You set yourself up. I just happened to own the floor you stood on. Within minutes, 2 federal officers entered the cafe, calm, steady, wearing dark navy jackets with TSA Enforcement Division stitched on the sleeves. The security doors opened just long enough to let them in, then sealed again. Karen stood frozen, her hands half raised, her voice trembling now. Wait, I didn't do anything. He's making this up. He's using his money to trap me. The taller officer turned to me first. Mr. Cole, we received your alert. Is your wife okay? My wife nodded. I'm fine, she said quietly. Just shaken. Karen's voice cracked. You can't take my word for it? He's lying. He's pretending to be some CEO. The officer interrupted her calmly. Ma'am, your actions have been recorded by multiple witnesses. The footage is already uploaded to the federal network. Karen froze again. Uploaded? I nodded slightly. Every camera in this terminal backs up to 3 different servers, I said. Even if you pull the wire, it still records. She looked like she was about to cry. I didn't mean to throw it. She provoked me. She was sitting, I said simply. You threw. The officer stepped closer. Ma'am, we'll need you to come with us. You're being detained under Section 49 of the Aviation Security Act. Karen's eyes went wide. Security Act? For coffee. My wife finally spoke again, her voice steady but soft. No, not for coffee, for assault in a restricted terminal. You crossed the line. Karen turned toward me, her pride collapsing. You could have just told me who you were. I looked at her, calm and unflinching. I shouldn't have to, I said. Respect isn't supposed to depend on who owns what. She went quiet. The officers guided her gently toward the exit, her protests fading with each step. The crowd began whispering, phones still up, recording her being escorted out. One man muttered, That's the same lady who yelled at the janitor last week. Another replied, Guess karma got first class today. The officer paused before leaving and asked me, Would you like to press charges? I thought for a moment, then shook my head. No, just make sure she gets banned from every Skyhold property. Permanently. He nodded once. Consider it done, sir. As they let her out, Karen turned her head, eyes glassy, voice breaking. You ruined my life. I didn't even look at her. No, I said quietly. You spilled it yourself. The doors slid shut behind her. Silence again. Then slow, scattered applause filled the cafe. My wife looked up at me, half smiling through the shock. You didn't have to go that far, she whispered. I smiled faintly. She threw coffee on you. I just returned a lesson. The manager stepped forward awkwardly. Mr. Cole, I didn't realize I cut him off gently. No waities. Just treat the next couple better than the last. He nodded fast, nearly bowing. I turned back to my wife. Let's go, I said softly. Our plane's waiting. By the next morning, the story was everywhere. Clips from the cafe, Karen shouting, coffee flying, security stepping in, looped across every social platform. The caption under most posts said the same thing. Karen attacks woman over window seat, gets humbled by airport owner. News anchors laughed about it on live TV. Podcasts picked it up. Hashtags exploded. Someone even edited the footage into slow motion with dramatic music. Karen's face, once smug and untouchable, became the symbol of pure arrogance caught in 4K. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its work. But my phone buzzed nonstop. Business partners, reporters, even old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Most messages said the same thing. That was you. My wife tried to ignore the noise. She didn't like attention, even when it came with justice. I found her by the window that night, scrolling through the comments with a tired smile. She's trending #1, she said softly. Hashtag, I just wanted her to stop thinking people like us don't belong anywhere. She smiled faintly. Well, she won't be thinking that again. Just then my assistant called. Sir, he said, there's a woman trying to reach you. Says she's the one from the cafe. She's begging for a meeting. I sighed. And she's been fired from 3 jobs in 1 week. So she can't go anywhere without being recognized. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Tell her, I said slowly, that I'm not angry, but I don't hire people who disrespect others. Understood, sir. He hung up. My wife looked at me quietly. You sure that's enough? I thought for a long moment, then nodded. Yes. The world already gave her the punishment I couldn't. She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. The window outside reflected the city lights, calm and distant. But as I looked out over the skyline, over the glowing terminals, the runways, the jets lined up for takeoff, I couldn't help but think about how fast power changes hands. Yesterday, Karen thought she ruled a cafe. Tonight, she couldn't walk into one. It happened 3 days later. I was at a charity event near the downtown terminal, a formal dinner raising funds for veterans who wanted to become pilots. The ballroom buzzed with soft music and polite laughter, the kind of calm where nothing ever goes wrong. Until I heard her voice. You. The sound cut through the room like a broken alarm. I turned, and there she was, Karen. Hair messy, eyes red, wearing a crumpled jacket like she'd been running all day. Cameras flashed instantly. She'd walked right into a room full of journalists. Security started moving toward her, but I raised a hand. Let her talk. She pointed at me, shaking. You ruined me. I lost my job, my friends, my reputation. You could have stopped it, but you didn't. Every camera turned. Every whisper went silent. I stood slowly buttoning my jacket. You came here, into a charity event, to blame me for what you did? Her voice cracked. I was angry, okay? You humiliated me in front of everyone. You could have just walked away. I nodded slightly. You're right. I could have. She blinked, confused. So, you admit it? I took a step closer, my tone calm but cold. But if I had, you'd have walked away thinking it's okay to treat people like trash. You would have done it again, maybe to someone who didn't have the power to stop you. Karen's lip trembled. I lost everything. I sighed. Then maybe now you understand what it feels like when someone takes something from you that wasn't theirs to take. The room stayed completely still. Even the servers froze in place. She shook her head, trying to hold back tears. You're enjoying this. I looked at her, really looked, and for a moment I saw the flash of what she used to be before arrogance swallowed her. No, I said quietly. I don't enjoy broken people, but I don't protect them from their lessons either. Karen took a step back, her voice fading. You're heartless. Maybe, I said softly, but I'm fair. A veteran sitting near the front, an old pilot with one hand and a metal pin to his chest, spoke up suddenly. Ma'am, maybe next time, start by saying sorry. The crowd murmured in agreement. Cameras caught her frozen face, the perfect still image of realization. Karen's shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, she whispered, almost too low to hear. I gave a single nod. Now that's something I can believe. Security guided her gently out of the room. No force, no shouting, just quiet. The event went on, but the energy had changed. The people there had seen something raw, justice without a courtroom, power without cruelty. As I walked back to my seat, my wife smiled faintly. You handled that with grace, she whispered. I smiled back. Sometimes, I said, the loudest punishment is silence. The next morning, the sky over the runway was golden, that quiet hour when planes glimmer like silver birds in the sunlight. I stood by the terminal window, coffee in hand, watching one of our jets take off. My wife walked up beside me, her reflection clear in the glass. It's over now, she said softly. I nodded. Yeah, for her and for us. The news had moved on. Karen's face wasn't trending anymore. People had found a new scandal to talk about. But her story stayed with me. Not because of the drama, but because of what it showed. Funny, I said quietly. People think power means money or control, but real power is just knowing when to stay calm. My wife smiled. You did more than stay calm. You showed her who you really were. I looked out at the runway again, the place that had taken me years to build, the empire that started from one tiny hangar and a dream nobody believed in. You know what's ironic? I said. She fought for a seat by the window, and I gave my whole life to build windows like these. My wife laughed softly. Poetic. Maybe, I said, but it's also true. For a long moment, we just stood there, quiet, watching the planes rise one after another, cutting through the sky like freedom itself. Then she asked, would you ever talk to her again? I thought for a moment before shaking my head. No, but I hope she learned something. We all need our crash landings before we finally learn how to fly. The PA system chimed in the distance, a gentle voice announcing another flight. Somewhere beyond those clouds, people were going home, chasing dreams, starting over. And for the first time in days, I felt peace. I wrapped an arm around my wife's shoulders. Let's head out, I said. We've got another opening to attend. She smiled. Another airport? Yeah, I said, grinning. Number 63. We walked toward the exit, sunlight spilling through the glass, our reflections fading into the light. Behind us, on the cafe wall, someone had taped up a handwritten sign over the window seat. Respect reserved here. And for once, everyone who sat there understood why.